You've got a license to talk.
Shocking. Positively shocking.
And the words are for your ears only.
I think you got the point.
Welcome to The Words Are Not Enough.
On episode 17 of The Words Are Not Enough, Bond 25 finally has a new director. True Detective's Cary Fukunaga. Veteran Bond scribes Neil Purvis and Robert Wade are recruited for one last assignment, and the Henry Cavill Bond rumors prove to be a story with staying power. Also, we give you our Bond 25 fan casting. All this and more coming your way now.
Yeah, baby!
What is up, Bond fans, and welcome to The Words Are Not Enough. I am one of your hosts, Griffin 008 Schiller.
And I'm Brody 005 Saravalli.
There we go. We do it a little different. Every single time it's like, sometimes I introduce you, sometimes I don't. And today I didn't. So I'm glad you picked up on the cue and we're just able to roll with it.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I'm just like here to pick up cues.
Yes. But anyways, if you are new to the show, this is a James Bond podcast. We talk about all the latest and greatest in our favorite spy franchise. And we do have a lot of news today. But first, Brody, I got a very important question for you.
Yes.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, no, I was just telling you before we started, I got a new TV today, so I'm pretty excited just to use it. But
right. Yeah.
Other than that, it's been a pretty... I've been sick this week, so it's just been... I'm still probably a little sick right now, but excuse if I'm talking through my nose. I apologies, but...
If he has a very nasally voice, then now you know.
Exactly. More nasally than usual, anyway. So.
Than usual. Hey, well, and you know what? At least you're not wearing a white V-neck, because apparently whenever I do anything associated with recording videos, I'm just fucking wearing a white V-neck. It's just become a staple of mine. I did not intentionally try to do this. Oh my God. But welcome to The Words Are Not Enough, where we only wear white V-necks.
Of course. Well, actually, I'm not even wearing a white V-neck. It's because I had to turn my air off to record, because my desk is right next to the...
Ladies and gentlemen, he's shirtless.
Well, I'm wearing my undershirt, and it is kind of a V-neck, so...
Oh my God, this literally is the show where we only wear white V-necks.
We look like a bunch of Russian mobsters.
Next thing you know, we're gonna start having the tracksuits and shaving our heads.
Yeah, we'll have to wear gold chains. We may even be Bond villains eventually.
Oh my God, who knows? Depends on what part of the world they're going for.
Right. Well, wow, what a throwback. That'll make sense.
Throwback.
That'll make sense in a few minutes.
It will be. Well, maybe not a few minutes. Maybe 20 minutes or so. That's like the last story we're tackling, or second to last. I guess.
Stay tuned to see what that means.
Right. So, what's the first Bond film you're going to watch on your TV?
Oh, good question. I'm actually kind of in the mood for a Roger Moore film. I might end up watching Live and Let Die.
Oh, no kidding. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just vibing with it. It's like we're getting towards Halloween. I get a Halloween vibe from it. So
I always get a Halloween vibe from that film. And I know last year we covered that film for Halloween. That was our Halloween special. Which, I mean, it makes sense. It's got the supernatural and the voodoo stuff in it, but realistically, there's nothing Halloween about it, yet it just puts you in that mindset for whatever reason.
No, it has all that occult stuff, so it just feels right.
Yeah.
And Baron Samedi feels like he's a Halloween costume come to life, so.
Right. I mean, he is very festive, if you will. Speaking of Halloween, yes. I just put a new scented wax in my wax melter to make my room smell nice. It's very fall. It may or may not be pumpkin spice something. So my room now smells like a pumpkin spice latte.
Smells like Starbucks.
Yes, of course. I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh my God. I actually have a candle as well. Since we're talking about candles now, I have a candle.
The candles are not enough.
The candles are not enough. It is.
There we go. We made the joke. We have to do it once an episode, and we did it right off the bat.
We got it out of the way early, Yeah, mine's actually under the pine tree. It's like a Christmas one.
Under the pine tree?
Yeah, I'm ready.
That sounds like a fucking super that sounds like a film title. I guess because it reminds me of The Place Beyond the Pines. So it's
it makes me. Yeah, it sounds like it's a really bad Christmas comedy starring Tim Allen.
fucking Tim. Yeah, it's like this Christmas, Tim Allen is going festive, or like, so I don't know. He's like, he's going AWOL. It's like a guy who like sells Christmas trees, and he's like, he's trying to make enough money to buy his kids like a great present. But like the Christmas tree business has been horrible this year, so he has
buying
to
plastic. Like,
right. Everyone's buying plastic. We're gonna make it very topical, and so he has to like break out his book of like marketing tactics and like selling tactics, go door to door.
I think we just like a screenplay that you've like secretly written.
Yeah, the script for it is actually in the drawer right next to me.
Right, yeah,
I've been waiting for you to just break out this this title from under the pine tree. Yeah, so you can look for this in Christmas of 2020 after we have our Bond fix.
Well, right. Well, it's actually going to be in 2019. It's taking Bond's traditional November spot.
Yeah, we actually called up Eon and we were like, listen, I got a really great Christmas film that I think should replace the Bond film slot.
You don't want to go
make a lot of
with
money.
This thing. Yeah,
no, absolutely not. Are you kidding me? From Under the Pine Tree with Tim Allen? That's a guaranteed like $60 million opening weekend.
Holy shit.
Guaranteed.
Oh my God.
You like pitch it as like the spiritual sequel to the Santa Claus.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking like from the producers of the Santa Claus. Like, yeah.
But here's the thing, it's actually gonna be put out by Eon.
Oh,
they're like, well, fuck, we have the slot, might as well put up something festive. They're
branching out. They're doing Bond films and Christmas films.
We have a cameo from George Lazenby.
Actually,
he's not doing anything.
That should be the tagline. The tagline should be "Branch out this Christmas."
Wow! I didn't think this show was going to get derailed that easily. But
these candles, man,
these candles, they're having us. Well, in my case, it's just scented fucking wax, but. And it just like anyways, yes. So this is a James Bond podcast. Yes. In case you had no
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in. I know now that you understand what we're working towards. From Under the Pine Tree or whatever the fuck it's called. Tim Allen, if you're listening, be sure to hit us up. We want you in the film. The script is already finished. It's been finished for several years now.
It was almost like I just noticed you did like a little reverse A View to a Kill there. So like it was originally Under the Pine Tree, and you've added from, whereas the movie removed from the short story titles. So,
oh yes, yeah,
we got to work Bond back in there.
Well, here's we will be back in there, but here's the ultimate question: do we use from, or do we just use Under the Pine? No, it has to be from Under the Pine Tree. That just rolls off the tongue. I think a little bit. It really does.
It sounds like a Christmas song.
Yeah, that's perfect. So there you go, Eon. There's your next Christmas film for November of 2019, because Christmas films start coming out after Thanksgiving.
Of course, yes.
Or before Thanksgiving. Just sometime in November. Anyways, to get us back on track, yes. So we are a Bond podcast, and we always start off with the news in a segment we like to call Tomorrow Never Lies. So the big story that we're going to be starting with, and really the reason we are doing this episode today, has to do with a new director for Bond 25. So as you may know, after the unexpected departure of director Danny Boyle from Bond 25, Eon and Co. have been on the hunt for a replacement, and it seems as though they've finally found one. So earlier today, and today is September 20th for those of you listening, the producers put out an official statement regarding who will be directing the next Bond film. The statement says the following. Michael G. Wilson, Barbara Broccoli, and Daniel Craig announced today that Bond 25 will begin filming at Pinewood Studios on March 4th, 2019, under the helm of director Cary Joji Fukunaga, with a worldwide release date of February 14th, 2020. And then we have a quote here from Michael G. Wilson. We are delighted to be working with Cary. His versatility and innovation make him an excellent choice for our next James Bond adventure. I'm sorry, that's actually a joint quote from Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli.
They said it in unison.
Yes, they did. They both just they like counted down. They did like finger cues and everything.
It was like a Children of the Corn kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Children of the broccoli.
Children of the broccoli. That's very appropriate. So it seems that the True Detective Season 1 and Beasts of No Nation director Cary Fukunaga will be taking over for Danny Boyle and using the script penned by Neil Purvis and Robert Wade. Now, that was not in the official announcement, but we're going to get to that story in a little bit later on. So it's also interesting because Cary Fukunaga has a new miniseries dropping on Netflix either tomorrow, Friday the 21st, or tonight at midnight, however you want to look at it. What is it called? Maniac. It's starring Jonah Hill and Emma Stone.
Yep,
so I'll be really interested to see how that turns out. It's been getting pretty good praise recently, so we'll get a little bit of Cary Fukunaga before Bond 25. Brody, I want to get your thoughts on this choice, and I want to know what you think it could possibly mean for Bond 25, getting a director like Cary Fukunaga, who is very particular in his visions for projects. He's not usually someone who wants to compromise. In fact, I think that's part of the reason he left
Yes,
over some creative differences there, and so it's a really curious choice for him to go into a franchise like Bond, which is very producer driven, even though the directors do have their voices heard. I just want to know, is this going to be a situation where, 3 months down the line, we're going to get an announcement saying Fukunaga is off the project, or do you think that they just happen to be very much on the same page with what they want for the film?
This is the thing that's been like the talking point ever since this news sort of came out, was that he's like famous for leaving projects, or being kicked off projects, or that kind of that kind of stuff. For me, because I think not only that, he was on The Alienist at one point, that TV show.
Right. Yeah, I believe so.
Got removed from that, or left that, or something like that.
Well, I mean, he even had creative issues on season 1 of True Detective. Like, for as great as that season was, and for as integral of a role in its success he played. I
mean, there's a reason he never came back. Yeah,
exactly. Right.
No, and that's the thing. And but I think that's overblown. I think, and I could be wrong. I could be proven wrong tomorrow, but. I get the feeling that after the sort of mild embarrassment of Danny Boyle leaving, they would not pick someone that they weren't on the same page with.
That's what I think. I think that they had to have had several talks with him.
Yeah, exactly.
Regarding it, and they conveyed what they want, and Fukunaga obviously probably has visions for what he wants. Maybe they made some sort of compromise, or maybe he just happens to really like the direction they want to go in.
Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Just because, so you have I think what differentiates this from the Danny Boyle situation is that in the Danny Boyle situation, they really wanted Danny Boyle, but Danny Boyle was like, well, I really want John Hodge, and so they made a compromise on John Hodge for Danny Boyle, and it was less about being on the same page and more about, we want this guy, we'll let him do what he wants.
Sure. But I will say, and this is part of our next story, that John Hodge apparently was only retooling the original Purvis and Wade script. The general idea was there, but
retooling still could he could change key details without changing the entire script.
But I think the core story was still there.
Right, and I think that as it stands, I think he was changing things that were deal breakers for the Broccolis.
Well, sure, yeah, that seems to be the thing, and especially with Daniel Craig.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't think there's because everyone's always talking he left in creative differences, and that's pretty much been every reason Fukunaga's left anything. So, what gives? And I think, I don't know. I don't see that being an issue. I don't see that being an issue at all in this situation. I think they hired him because they know they want someone to do their own vision. I don't think that was a lie. I think they had a really good experience with Sam Mendes, who was doing the exact same thing, sort of bringing his vision to the screen. I just think there was certain it wasn't so much that he had his own vision that bothered them about Danny Boyle. I think it was that his vision did not align with what they were going for, and I don't think they're going to have an issue. I don't think they're going to step on his toes too much, is what I'm trying to get at, I guess. I think they're going to sort of talk this through. Well, they would have already talked this through, and I think they're going to let him go and make his film. And that'll be the extent of it. I think. I think it was a very sort of ass backwards kind of process with the Danny Boyle thing, which ended up leading to more differences than they were anticipating.
Right. Well, my hope is that you know
makes any sense.
Right. No. I get what you're saying. My hope is that, you know, with Danny Boyle, it seemed like they were trying to go back to maybe classic Bond in a way. Like they were trying to, you know, take what people loved about like the retro films and maybe adapt it for like a modern audience. At least that's kind of the vibe I got from it. And based off of what Danny Boyle had said, it seems like, because he has such a reverence for the franchise, it seemed like maybe that was the direction he wanted to go in. And then we have someone like Cary Fukunaga, who makes these really rich and like thought-provoking pieces. I've heard people really consider him a mainstream art house director, which, you know, is kind of weird to think about, but it almost makes sense because he's so particular in what he wants, and like his ventures are so deep and introspective with the characters and whatnot. And I think it's exactly what Bond needs. I mean, hopefully it'll go back to like, you know, the dark and grittiness of like, say, Skyfall and Casino Royale, but it'll be, I guess, more like of in line with what Fukunaga is doing in his projects. So that's what really excites me about him being, you know, the guy to helm the project, because I just feel like it's so not like it was the last thing I would have expected. Like I never in a million years would have expected Cary Fukunaga to be announced as the director for a James Bond film, because you hear it and you're like, okay, I can see it, but it's got to be really, they got to be doing really interesting stuff with the characters, which for me, that's what excites me the most.
Absolutely, yeah, and then that's kind of like he's kind of a perfect director for Daniel Craig's Bond in the way he was pre-Spectre, I guess.
Sure, yeah,
because Spectre kind of like brought things back to like a more classic place in terms of the character. The way it treated the character within the confines of the story. What I think you can sort of pass from Fukunaga's like somewhat extensive filmography is that he is someone who really like sort of loves wallowing in that kind of, I don't know. Oh, you look at True Detective, and that show just like sort of wallows.
It's pretty
in
grim,
its own grimness, and not in a way that's like grim dark. Oh, I'm so broody.
But it's just like really fascinating.
Yeah,
you know?
It's more of like a character study. He deals with characters, especially like male characters who are very damaged, and I think that's Bond. Especially like the Daniel Craig, the way Daniel Craig has played him, the way he's written in the books. That is Bond, and I think it makes so much sense that I'm like ashamed of myself for having not thought of it sooner. Because when you say when you pitch me a Bond movie in the style of True Detective season 1, and I go, oh yeah, of course,
it's genius, yeah, amazing. Of course, yeah.
And I almost think in retrospect, as much as I love Danny Boyle, and I would have loved a Danny Boyle Bond film, and I would still love to see one.
You know, it still might be in the cards later down the road. You never know.
I'd still like to see one eventually one day.
Yeah.
But it almost feels like Fukunaga's a much better fit for the material.
I absolutely agree. Well, and you know, it's funny you mentioned that because...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off there. So I saw an article from a think piece, actually, from the Hollywood Reporter earlier today, saying, you know, with someone like Fukunaga on there, maybe we'll actually get like, you know, the curse of being James Bond, like what he has to deal with. Because, you know, we always look at the glamorous side of it, but I think with someone like Fukunaga, who's not afraid to go into the more darker aspects of people, we'll be able to see that toll that it takes on him, and like
exactly, yeah.
You know,
and that's kind of
really dive into
his whole tenure has kind of been focused on that in a way, and that's why I think some people felt that Spectre was a bit of a betrayal of that, because it was kind of like, okay, we got past that and now here's this, and it's like, well, you sort of set up 4 films where he was really tortured, and you've got to sort of deal with that.
Yeah, it's almost like like you said, it's like they've been building towards this, and with the exception of Spectre, this really does feel like. I mean, we know nothing about the story. We know nothing about the direction. Based off of the choice of Cary Fukunaga and what he excels in. This just feels like the logical way to cap off Craig's run for the character, because every film, with the exception of Spectre, and even Spectre to an extent, has been very, introspective on Bond, deconstructing the character in a way, going from, him being this merciless killer, his relationships and how that's affected him emotionally. So we've dealt with the romance side of the character. Now let's deal with the killing side of it. Him being such a cold and callous individual.
Absolutely, and I think because they kind of touch on that a little bit with like the whole assassin thing in Spectre. They don't really go anywhere with it. But what I've said for the longest time, because you kind of have to resolve in one way or another, whether it's an offhanded line or something else, you have to deal with the way Spectre ended, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And I think I've said on the podcast before, and I've said it before, definitely in private, but I think the way to handle Madeline is to to kill her off, per se. I've sort of come around on that. I think that might be a little... obviously a little cliche, considering just killing the girlfriend is a bit of a lame cliche. But on top of that, I think it's also been done in the franchise before.
It's always like the trigger for him to like become even more emotionally unstable.
And I think that would be lazy. I think what you have to do is, and you're talking about like the curse of Bond, what you have to do is essentially come to the Bond has to come to the conclusion that he can't have the life that he wants to have. You know what I mean? And that's the sacrifice, the curse, whatever you want to call it, that he has to come to terms with. And that sounds like a story just based off of what we've seen from Fukunaga in the past. That sounds like a story he could tell, and might even like I would go so far as to say probably will tell, just based on the kind of characters he's written or directed in the past. And I would love to see that, and I'd love to see it. It could almost, in a way, add a little extra depth to that relationship from Spectre, and like take those threads and really bring it to another place.
Right.
And elevate the material of it, which would be really, really cool to see. One more thing I was going to say real quick, just going back to the Danny Boyle thing real fast, was that I think what makes the difference for me is like, as much as I love Danny Boyle and I'd love to see him do one, but especially when you're dealing with Daniel Craig's Bond, I think Fukunaga has this like really his name is so hard to say. It's so hard to say. But especially when you're like just trying to get the sentence out.
Sure. I know. It does not roll off the tongue easily.
Right, because you either want to like do 2 Ks or you want to do 2 Gs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's either Fukunaga or it's Fukunaga. So I think my tongue around the K and the G is too much. But no. So what I think makes like the difference between the two of them is you have this really frenetic sort of hyperactive style that Danny Boyle is famous for, which might have been like I could have seen working in a Bond film, and I still could see working in a Bond film, but it would have been a departure. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Whereas I feel like Fukunaga
well, and that's why I say I feel like it lends itself more to like a classic Bond feel in a weird way.
Fukunaga does?
Oh no, not Fukunaga. Boyle.
Well, I feel like Boyle is almost completely on the other end. Like it's very frantic, very kind of almost.
I feel like Boyle's
crass.
film would be. I'm sorry. Say that again.
I was gonna say it's a little like frenetic, a little like crass almost in the way it's like sort of like hits you like a train. Whereas I feel like Fukunaga's style could almost it is very bleak in some senses, but in the same sense it's bleak, but in like an almost romantic way, in a very stylish. Like Bond is very bleak and stylish, and like all these things is a contradiction, and I think his style reflects that almost a little bit better. Which and it almost feels more classic, in line with the classic style, but also in line with. It's a perfect marriage almost between the classic style and then like the bleakness that was sort of established in the earlier Craig films. But I don't know. I could be wrong. That's just kind of the vibe I get.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Well, and it should be
Comparing
noted
them
that...
as filmmakers, yeah.
Yeah, should Fukunaga stay on the project, which I don't think there's any reason to believe otherwise,
I don't
but
think
then
he will
again,
believe, yeah.
who knows? We're already getting people with think pieces at like the ready to fucking call him out for leaving or whatever.
You get him, and then you also get like the reputation that this movie has gotten for like hemorrhaging people. And
yeah,
you're bound to get a
it's
thing
just
too.
ridiculous, honestly, because it's just like, oh, okay, so Danny Boyle and John Hodge departed over creative differences. That's something that happens in Hollywood, folks. And just because it happens once doesn't mean it's going to happen again. We're not dealing with a Sony or a Warner Brothers here.
I think it's only just because
they don't have this
Fukunaga's reputation. I think
that's where but it should be. It's interesting to know. I think he will be the first American director to take on a film, if I'm not mistaken.
Pretty interesting.
Which is insane, because like you look just the long history of it, you're like, wow, they've never had an American director do one of these films. Which understandably so, but still, you would think that, especially during the 90s, maybe one of them would have.
Right? Yeah, I know. It's like, it is kind of strange. It's kind of strange when you think there's been two New Zealander, like two Kiwis have directed Bond films, which is an absurd number. But
I mean, it's because who directed whoever did Die Another Day? I always forget his name.
Well, shit, I always forget his name.
There's a reason we forget his name, but he's
Lee Tamahori.
I think it's
Lee Tamahori.
Yes, he's the only other one that's not like British or he's not from the Commonwealth, I guess you could say.
No, he's New Zealander.
Is he?
Lee Tamahori's from New Zealand, and so is Martin Campbell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well, regardless, sorry, we don't know exactly. At least I don't know exactly where some of these directors are from. But
that's fine.
Regardless, it is interesting to note that Fukunaga would mark the first American director.
It's really interesting considering how British they've sort of gone with a lot of their behind the camera sort of. I don't want to say casting, but you know what I mean. Like,
sure,
the people they've gotten they really seem to be skewing towards homegrown talent in terms of we got Sam Mendes and Sam Mendes.
Right, they had Danny Boyle on there.
Yeah, Danny Boyle is like keeping it in the family kind of.
I mean, so literally the only person missing was like Christopher Nolan. That's like the other like big British director at the moment.
And he's British American, so it'd be
right. So I guess it would be like an interesting little thing there. But
stole that title from Nolan. Nolan,
yes,
blood now.
Damn you. No. But anyways, so yeah, that's really all there is to cover regarding Cary Fukunaga. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on this story as it unfolds and we get more details. But I think both of us are definitely very excited for this. I think it's a very inspired a directorial choice, and I can't wait to see where it goes. I think we're going to get a really interesting character study on Bond, which is exactly what I wanted for 25. So with that, let's move on to the next story, which I alluded to in our previous story, which is the script. Neil Purvis, Robert Wade. So following the departure of Danny Boyle from the next Bond installment, John Hodge naturally exited the project as screenwriter. So, and I kind of touched on this a little bit in the previous story, but apparently Hodge's treatment was a retooling of the original Purvis and Wade script that had already been approved by Broccoli and Wilson prior to Boyle and Hodge coming onto the project. So now, according to Baz Bamigboye from the Daily Mail and James Bond news site mi6hq.com, Purvis and Wade will be returning to Bond 25, which is great for them because now they have jobs. But so the writing duo are supposedly touching up the script with changes that reflect the wishes of the producers and Daniel Craig. According to Bamigboye, he says the following: there's a keenness for women to be more front and center in Bond 25, which is interesting. And I think that's about all there is there. But anyways, Brody, what do we make of all of this news, these rumblings, and now hearing that Hodge's script was just a retooling of Purvis and Wade's? Does that make us more confident in the overall story? Do you feel like the core idea they have is strong and just they need to, tweak it a little bit here or there? Just, I guess, what are your overall thoughts on this topic here?
I feel like we've heard like rumors about this stuff, and I mean, I guess this is still a rumor. This is like the Daily Mail,
right? I mean, nothing has been confirmed. And even though it's probably very likely, it has never been confirmed that Hodge's script was just a retooling.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I don't know. This is the thing. Like, first of all, I know what's his name, Baz. He's been he's been like touted as like a bit of an insider. I still don't trust the Daily Mail.
Right, it's still a tabloid. Yeah.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think, and maybe this might be wishful thinking. I just don't want Purvis and Wade to be doing it, but I'm sure their idea is strong. I mean, they've never like been bad idea people. They've just been kind of bad at executing ideas on their own.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know, and I think it would be again. Everyone's said this before. They need fresh blood, all that kind of thing. But what I find is interesting is you'd think they did like a thread of tweets for this release, right? They're like, it's going to be moved. We didn't mention where it's being moved to. It's being moved to Valentine's Day 2020.
Oh, shit. Yeah, you're right. We did not touch on that.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I hate it. That's a terrible. I just hate the idea of a Bond movie.
I get it.
In February.
I like, right. I mean, we look at something like Black Panther or like Deadpool.
That's exactly
films
why it's
can
moved there. Yeah.
Right. I mean, like, films can succeed there. And like I get it,
so
they don't want to like
being...
push it back further than they already have to.
Yeah, I just think like that's just such a trash month for a movie to come out. Like,
well, I don't say not anymore.
Not anymore, I guess. But like, I mean, I just
what you don't want to spend Valentine's Day with Bond.
Oh, when you put it like that. But,
see, come on, there you go. Now you're getting
like
turned on to the idea.
I like spending the end of November with Bond, but we'll begin in November. But yeah, I don't know. I don't like that very much. But I'll live. It's fine. I guess it's better getting it early than having to wait the whole of 2020 to get it.
Right, and that's the thing. Like,
they probably want to get it out right before the election. If they release it in November, it's a little too. Have to share the headlines with whatever happens in 2020. So
sure, yeah.
But and maybe their script hinges on like there definitely being a Trump presidency. But anyway, so I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that they had this big long thread of announcements, and they didn't announce who was writing it. You know what I mean?
That was the one thing that stuck out to me too.
Usually,
they did not
like,
announce
because when they announced Danny Boyle, they said John Hodge is writing it, and like I feel like they've done that. I think they did that with Skyfall, they're like Sam Mendes, and also we got John Logan, and like
right.
And it was weird that they didn't announce a writer. So part of me thinks, yeah, they're probably still using some of the ideas that Purvis and Wade were kicking around, and yeah, I'm sure John Hodge used some of those ideas, just because, I mean, he was working for Eon, and I'm sure Eon has their own ideas.
Sure.
Part of me thinks that they're probably just going to let Fukunaga get a writer that he's comfortable with working with, and maybe he'll retool some of those ideas from the Purvis and Wade script.
It'll be kind of like a Sam Mendes Skyfall situation where it's like they have what
great.
they
that's like you bring up that even goes back to like Casino Royale with
sure.
Man, I always forget Haggis.
Paul Haggis.
Paul Haggis, that's his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love that. I've said this before. I've said it again. Purvis and Wade are better when someone takes their ideas and writes a better script with them.
Yeah.
And so if that's what they're going with, and the fact that they haven't announced Purvis and Wade is promising for me as someone who doesn't want them to do it. But again, maybe if the idea was this good, right, and everyone's in love with it, maybe it's good. Like, I'm not saying they're incapable of writing something good on their own. Maybe
it's just kind of hard to think that someone like Fukunaga, or Jesus Christ, I'm doing it now too. Fukunaga,
right?
It's like it's hard to think that someone like him would just go with what they already have written. You know what I'm saying?
Like
I feel
right. He's a writer himself. Like
yeah.
And they weren't looking for a writer-director.
Right, I mean,
for a writer-director.
Exactly. So, which makes me think that maybe he'll go in and do his retooling of what they originally have already done.
Chills. I just got chills.
I love it. No, absolutely. I mean, we've already expressed our love for the guy in the previous segment, but like, I feel like him doing that is probably exactly what they need. Which means that Purvis and Wade technically won't be like full-on screenwriters, but I'm sure they'll get story credit. So, once again, this stuff here, I should note, this stuff here came out before the Fukunaga announcement.
Oh,
so
there you go. Yeah.
it's still on the, which way is this true or not, but it still is important to note. The thing I want to point out here, the keenness for women to be more front and center in Bond 25. What do you make of that? Do you think there's any credence to it? Do you think that's just a no-brainer, or
absolutely a no-brainer? I mean, first of all, let's just remember that like the Bond films have been sort of fighting off this Bond girl stereotype since like the 70s. So
sure,
like there's always been an emphasis on like, well, we're going to give every Bond girl, every actress who becomes a Bond girl says my Bond girl is different from the average Bond girl. Like she's actually got like brains, and like at this point they pretty much all are very competent people.
Well, and if you go back to what
at least the last 20 plus years, they've like Bond girls have been very prominent. Like especially you look at like characters like Vesper, you look at characters like Natalia in GoldenEye, like characters that have like actual emotional depth to them, and like a purpose in the story beyond like getting rescued or whatever.
Sure.
So I think there's always been an emphasis on that, but absolutely after the Me Too thing, you'd be an idiot to like not.
No, of course, yeah.
And especially in a series that has been like has had like checkered past with sexism. You 100% want to come out in front of that and say, okay, we're not making the Bond girl in our post Me Too movie a brainless like.
Well, and I think we're honest to God past that. Yeah, like you were saying, we're past that, especially with the Craig films. Like, you've got people like Camille, you've got people like Vesper.
Absolutely.
In Skyfall, the Bond girl, you can make an argument, was M. Like,
absolutely was M, yeah.
So it's like, yeah.
And even like Severine had like 1, 2, 3 scenes, and she had like a ton of. Like,
well, she
really
was someone who was
stuff.
dealing with like abuse, which is very topical now.
Right, yeah. And I think the only reason you want to come out in front of it is because one of the chief criticisms of Spectre was their relationship was undercooked, and Madeline really suffered for that as a character. And so I think this is just a Hollywood-wide problem. Hollywood has a real hard time writing supporting female characters that aren't just there as a prize. So I think it makes a lot of sense. I think Barbara Broccoli as a woman, as a female producer, would probably be very conscious of that.
Absolutely,
not that,
yeah.
Like, not that she had like her being a woman means that that's the only reason she'd be conscious of that. But
no, but I mean,
I think she has
public statements she's made
absolutely
lean
it
towards
would
that.
Bad on her
Yeah.
if she was like sort of I don't really care.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing is when we talked about the casting, announcements that were posted.
Yes.
If the script is still kind of in line with what Boyle had, then obviously we're gonna get like kind of like a femme fatale, like main female henchman villain, I think, which was one of the roles they were looking at casting for.
Yeah.
And then obviously like the main Bond girl, I think.
I think they may just like, and here's the thing, right? With the whole women front and center that I'm kind of thinking. Sorry to cut you off.
No. I was finished that thought, even though it didn't sound like it. But
you ended on an inflection, so I wasn't too sure. But So I think in addition to that, obviously you have like a femme fatale character, and you have like a Bond girl. You know what I mean? Like the classic Brosnan formula. Like you need the two, and then. But I think what this may indicate is that I think they're gonna try and populate Bond's world with other female characters who aren't just either the Bond girl or the femme fatale. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like
absolutely. They're more complicated than that.
Years.
Yeah.
You had M for years, who was like kind of a nice break from that, in that she was the boss and she just happened to be a woman. And I think you're going to start seeing like there will just be other people in play within the story who are neither the villain or the heroine, who are women. Just like you walk around MI6, maybe 00, fucking 8 is a woman. You know what I mean? Like just in passing. You know what I mean? I think that's quite kind of what it means. I think they're just going to start populating their world with more. Maybe one of the people he meets up with on assignment is a woman, and she's not a Bond girl. She's not a romantic lead. She's just someone who happens to be a woman who Bond needs to like sort of interact with for his assignment. I think that's.
Yeah, I mean, you could take like a pussy galore type character, but like just like take out the romantic interest.
Yeah, I think just like Bond can meet women without having to have any kind of romantic tension with them. I think that may be where they... I mean, not that they're going to remove romantic tension from the movie. I can already see like the keyboard warriors going, Bond, blah, blah, blah. But Bond can have a romantic lead in the movie, and like almost 100% will. But yeah, just like filling out other roles with women, just you know, and not having Bond like bone every single one of them for the like sake of, you know, achieving a number. You know, I'm all for that. That sounds great. It's a smart thing to do, and it's also just like the right thing to do. So, I can get behind that as well. But anyways, for the sake of time, we'll move on to our next two stories here. Don't want to spend too much time on them, but they are interesting. They have to deal with potential castings / actors being involved with the franchise. The first one deals with Dave Bautista. He's been in the news a lot recently, mainly for Guardians, but in this case, we're going to be talking about his involvement in the Bond franchise. So the last we saw of Dave Bautista's henchman, Mr. Hinks Inspector, he was getting pulled off the speeding train in Morocco. Yeah, presumably he was killed, but many fans were speculating that it might not have been the end for the character, which I don't know. You take that as you will. But it turns out that Dave Bautista himself also believes in the character's survival. During the press tour for his latest film, Final Score, which coincidentally stars former Bond Pierce Brosnan, Bautista commented on the potential return of Mr. Hinks in Bond 25, saying the following: "We had hopes, and they had mentioned it, but yeah, still have kind of hopes. I hear it's been pushed, so maybe there's a chance." He then went on to say, "Yeah, I want to be in Bond 25. I've been very open and political about it, like I've pursued this role. I would love to revive Hinks in Bond 25. I want to be part of it because it's a historical film. There's a huge part of me that wants the bragging rights of being the henchman who came back twice, because there hasn't been many, and I want to be the guy. I want to be historical, you know?" We should mention that with Richard Keel's Jaws being the only Bond henchman thus far to return in the franchise, playing a part in both The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker, Bautista would certainly be making Bond history. So, Brody, I have to turn to you. What are your thoughts on the return of Mr. Hinks in Bond 25, and what are the chances the actual character does return? I think first of all, I love that idea. I think that's great. I love little bits of continuity. If they use Spectre again, if Spectre is a force in some way in this film, hell yeah, use Bautista. That'd be great.
Yeah.
It would make sense. It would, because I think him getting thrown out of the train is very Jaws-esque. Jaws literally got thrown out of a train and then survived. So I think. Sure.
And there were already like comparisons that were being made to Jaws and in Hinks, you know, simply because they didn't talk and they were just big imposing people.
We saw him get he was in a car crash midway through Spectre and he survived that, and see, he already had like a bit of a penchant for doing that. So yeah, I think that'd be totally within the realm of plausibility for the character, and he was one of my favorite parts of Spectre. I would love to see him get a rematch. I'd love to just sort of see
it's always
how
fun.
That plays out. I think it would just depend on whether or not they're using Spectre in some capacity. I don't want him to force him in just to sort of get him in there. But if he's organically, if Spectre's organically part of the story, use Bautista and use Hinks, because you've got this guy who really wants to be part of it. Yeah, I love that's where I was gonna go. That's where I was gonna go with it. I love his enthusiasm for it. You can tell that he enjoyed playing the character and he loved being part of the franchise. And then also like the passion to be like the second guy to be featured as a henchman in multiple films also really excites him. I'm with you. If the film calls for it, absolutely. Maybe you could even bring him back in like a film with a new Bond. It'll just be like a nice callback. It doesn't have to have any other relation other than the fact that Mr. Hinks is in it. It'd be a nice bit of like sort of continuity to say like this is the same guy. Yeah. Oh sure, yeah, absolutely. I'd totally be okay with that. But he and Henry Cavill can duke it out. That's what I want to see. That's that. You know what? Fuck Bond 25. I want to see Hinks in Bond 26 with Henry Cavill. Fingers crossed. Oh my god. But yeah, no. It's will it happen?
it's a coin flip. Should it happen,
really is, yeah.
I would be okay with it. I'm not like screaming out for it, but with Batista's enthusiasm, I would like to see him maybe pop up. I'd be okay with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to the second and last story here, potential Bond villain. So this is an interesting one because we don't know where this one will go. But during an exclusive interview with The National, French-American and Moroccan actor Saeed Tagmaoui revealed he expects to take on the role of the next Bond villain in 25. Although the departure of Danny Boyle could drive a wedge into that plan. So Tagmaoui stated, "I'm supposed to do the next James Bond playing the lead bad guy. I was cast by Danny Boyle, and just now he left the project, so of course there's some uncertainty." He then went on to say, "We don't know who the director will be." Well, now we do, but when this came out, he did not. "And the producers don't know if they're going to go Russian or Middle East with the baddie right now. I literally just received a message saying, if they go Middle East, it's you. If they go Russian, it's someone else. It's the story of my life. Always on that line between something that could change my life and something that disappears." So, Brody, thoughts on Saeed Tagmaoui playing the next Bond villain? And do you think they will go with a Russian or Middle Eastern villain?
This is really interesting, actually, because
Yeah.
I got a lot of thoughts on this. First of all, I think he'd be great. I think he's a really cool guy. Really cool actor.
Oh, for those of you who don't know, Saeed Tagmaoui played the Middle Eastern guy in Wonder Woman, who had the fez on. He's been in a lot of other projects as well. He's an excellent actor.
He's great, yeah. And I think people were screaming. Sorry. But yeah, no, he's an excellent actor. And I think what interests me most about this story is that essentially what you've got is a bit of a confirmation on what we were previously talking about. In that, okay, they had a script, and it seems like this would corroborate the idea that they had a script from Purvis and Wade that was retooled by Hodge, and then part of the retooling was making the bad guy Middle Eastern rather than Russian, and they cast him because they're like, we want you to be the bad guy, you're Russian, all that, and which we heard there was a dispute over the casting of the villain.
Which
we heard a different name. We heard a different name and all that kind of thing, but this kind of lines up with that. And now that Danny Boyle's out, they're like, it may end up going back to Russian because it seems Eon wanted to do a Russian villain, and Danny Boyle was like, I want to do something else.
I want to do Middle Eastern, yeah.
So this kind of ties all that stuff together, which is really cool, and it actually gives me like cause for pause, because if they're going, if they really wanted to do a Russian villain and Danny Boyle didn't want to do one, I'm with Eon. I think a Russian villain would be great,
yeah.
and I
it's
think
very topical.
Would be very topical, yeah. And so I think there's more social, political, like sort of relevance to that pick.
Whereas like a Middle Eastern villain feels almost a bit dated. It
feels very it feels like that's an idea that was like very reactionary in like the mid 2000s after 9/11. It feels like I don't really like. Again, you can do a Middle Eastern Bond villain. You can do a Bond villain from anywhere, but it feels a little played out. It feels like very sort of 24. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely,
no, Middle East out to get us, like that kind of thing. Which hopefully, as a country, as a world, we've sort of gotten past now. And hopefully the villain would have been written
much less stereotypical. I mean, in the article, which you can the interview they go on with him, he talks about like the struggle of being typecast, and he's very selective over like taking Middle Eastern characters and villains in particular. So clearly, the role called for something a little less stereotypical. Otherwise, he would not have taken the part.
Of course, and I wouldn't like paint it like so black and white that like, oh, Danny Boyle wanted a stereotypical like jihadist villain.
I don't
think that's what was going on. I just think, to an extent, although as a sort of a topic of political sort of relevance.
Yeah.
Russia is much more relevant right now than the Middle East as a region. Although
I think it'd be a little bit more interesting too.
Yeah, I think it's more in like Bond's purview as a character rather than I don't know. That's just me personally.
Yeah,
but
I get what you're saying. For sure.
I can't get it out of my head. Like if they did a Middle Eastern villain, I feel like it would just be 24, which was
Or Jack Ryan, because they did that
yeah,
recently.
exactly.
You know?
Like, I'm hearing Bond in like a flak jacket, like wandering around Afghanistan. Like, it's just,
yeah.
I don't know. It feels weird. I don't know. I mean, who knows? Bond's been in Afghanistan before, so who knows?
Right, for sure. I mean, like, as much as I like this guy as an actor, and as much as it would suck for him to like land the role only to lose it,
right?
I you know, with Fukunaga coming on, I don't see him remaining attached to the project, because once again, you know, Fukunaga might want someone else for the role, even if it is a Middle Eastern villain. You know,
right. I think the fact that he was confirmed for Boyle and now it's up in the air because Boyle's gone. I think Eon wants a Russian villain.
I agree, especially if you go back to the reports when he was first fired and it said it had to deal with controversy over the villain. Craig was definitely very vocal, so maybe he wanted a Russian villain. And
that probably has to do with the story as well. Like, there's probably more so than just the casting. It's probably like they wanted to do something very specific about Russia, and he was sort of saying, right, let's just do it like different, like, take it in a different direction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In that case, I think Fukunaga is probably on the same page as them because they wouldn't have hired him otherwise.
Absolutely.
And so I think, unfortunately, hopefully he gets a role. Maybe like if there's another role for a Middle Eastern character who is not
the main villain. Yeah,
this is any character in the movie who isn't the main villain. You know, or if we play a villain later on, I don't know. I'm sort of mumbling my words here, but
no, it's fine.
Interested to see.
Yeah, for sure. I think he has all the makings to be a great villain. We've seen him play great villains in the past, along with just great characters in general. But as far as the question, will they go Russian or Middle Eastern? I'm going to say they go Russian, and I think you're on the same page, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was kind of where I was going with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, let's move on to our final topic here. We got a lot of news topics, but this one is a little less concrete, but it's nonetheless interesting because I know the last episode we published, the last official episode, if you guys haven't, definitely go back to the Men vs. Movies YouTube channel, check out the little live streams we did when Danny Boyle first left the project. We kind of just wanted to get, you know, on top of that information and just like give you our thoughts immediately, so that's why we're not covering it in this episode, and it feels a little weird in the podcast feed. So if you haven't, you can go to those live streams and listen to our thoughts on Danny Boyle's departure. So anyways, this one has to we're going back to Henry Cavill. So there's more rumors circulating that Henry Cavill is wanted by Eon as the next James Bond. Take this with the largest grain of salt you possibly can, because I think Eon's priority, first and foremost, is getting Bond 25 completed. I don't even think maybe just on the very, very back burner, they're considering the next Bond, but I think they want to get this film, you know, done to the best that it can be before they even, you know, think about doing that. But regardless, it's still fun to engage in these rumors. So there was a rumor that emerged from Crazy Days and Nights. It's a Hollywood insider gossip site, and they regularly pen blind items, which blind items are blurbs that hint at the identities of subject matter without directly naming them. And so it's since been outed that Cavill and Bond are in a subsequent update. So take this as you will, but the update says the following. The producers of this long-running franchise don't care at all about the cloud swirling around the head of this foreign-born former superhero. This blind item came out September 13th. They want to cast him as their next replacement. And then a September 20th update reveals that the long-running franchise as Bond and the foreign-born former superhero as British actor Henry Cavill, who played the Man of Steel across DC films and whatnot. So, and this is really interesting because if you've been following the Henry Cavill drama as of late, it's been reported by like the Hollywood Reporter that Cavill is out as Superman in the DC universe. I mean, he put up this cryptic video on his Instagram saying that, it wasn't done yet, which was kind of not in line with the Hollywood Reporter article. And then Cavill's manager, Danny Garcia, took to Twitter and basically said the cape is still in the closet. So we really have no idea what's going on with Henry Cavill over in the DC cinematic universe. But should he be out as Clark Kent Superman in the DC universe at Warner Brothers, that really does open the door for him to get into the next big franchise, which, based off of, you know, his comments, off of Eon's comments, and just, you know, the fact that he almost got the role over Daniel Craig back in the day, it just kind of lends more credence to the fact that Henry Cavill could very well be the next Bond. And if you were to take these, you know, blind items seriously, it looks like they want him to be their next replacement. So a lot of rumors to kind of touch on here. We'll start with this. Brody, do you believe these blind items, first of all? And second of all, do you think that with Cavill and this whole Superman thing, that it kind of paves the way for him to be the next James Bond?
Here's the thing. I give those blind items about as much credence as I would any tabloid kind of gossip.
Absolutely. As you should, yeah.
Right, which is not a ton, but it does definitely play into this narrative that makes a lot of sense to me, that they would want Henry Cavill. I think he's been someone that, I've said this before, but he's someone that they've wanted, and he's someone that makes sense for the role in terms of just, there's been a lot of, he's always been sort of in the conversation, and I don't know, yeah, it just sort of, I agree that their focus is on Bond 25 right now, and it 100% is. I still think they probably do two things at once. I think they're probably still thinking about who they want to approach, because I think if you're Eon, you've lost so much ground over the Craig era with all this legal drama, with all this, like, sort of everything that's gone on. I think what you want to do is be ready with a new Bond locked and loaded, so that you can just start making a new Bond film after, after the new one comes out. You can sort of, you wait the however long, you wait until the movie's released on Blu-ray or something, and then you say, okay, and now we're going to start, looking for a new Bond, and you've already been looking for the last year or so because you're prepared, and then you announce them, and then you get, pretty short after you start making a new Bond film, and you get into this 2 year sort of cycle. Right. I think,
and you have someone like Henry Cavill who clearly wants to be part of a franchise. You know, he loves playing Superman because he loves the character, and he enjoys being part of that franchise. But they're not using him. They're criminally underusing him. And then, you get. When he was on the Mission Impossible press tour, he was talking about he likes Bond. I mean, there's always been, ever since he lost the role to Daniel Craig, there's always just been this Cavill correspondence with Bond and whatnot. And I think he has reverence for that character as well. And pair that with him wanting to be part of a franchise, you get him on board as the next Bond, and I think you'll be pumping out a lot more films.
Absolutely. I think he's doing The Witcher right now. I think you get that. He does that while Daniel Craig is doing Bond 25, essentially, more or less. And then once they're both done with those projects, you're pretty much ready to go into something new. I'm sure if The Witcher is successful, they'll make a season 2 and all that kind of thing. But it's a show, right? Not a movie.
Yes, The Witcher is a show. That's the only thing that might get in the way. But even still, like you said,
I don't think it would get that much in the way, though. Is the thing.
Sure.
You do. If you're doing it every 2 years, he can just do it in the off time he has between movies, while they're doing pre-production or whatever. I don't know. I feel like you've got plenty of actors who do TV and movies and whatever else. I think that's not too big of a deal to juggle.
Yeah.
I think the Superman thing was probably the biggest roadblock And that seems to have
I
been
agree.
clearly. I think you're insane if you think he's still staying on. I think that's wishful thinking.
I feel like the report happened, and then his manager would
scrambled to maintain face because they were trying to negotiate something with Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers just said, "You know what? Fuck it, we'll just fire you. Like, we don't need you."
Sure. I mean, but and then you look at their statement, which I have pulled up here, and they were like, "No decisions have been made regarding any upcoming Superman films, but the studio has always had great respect for and a great relationship with Henry Cavill, and that remains unchanged," which basically says nothing.
It says
absolutely
nothing. It's
nothing.
no denial. It's not. Yeah. It's literally,
And
hey, Warner Brothers still wants to work with this very marketable movie star, which obviously.
Yeah, sure. I mean, okay, go ahead and make some Man from U.N.C.L. sequels, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's just like really weird. They're just like, it's been I don't know how many years has it been since Man of Steel came out.
Well, Man of Steel came out in 2013, so it's been like 5 or so.
Yeah, which, it's about time for a sequel, and it doesn't look like they have any plans to make a sequel. He's just being wasted there. I don't know. I mean, he probably still likes being Superman, but he's kind of sick of being sidelined. And I feel like the his manager was on Twitter, like looking at trying to use it as a negotiation tactic, like you said. Yeah. And this whole thing is just like, it popped up and then nothing happened with it. So we're still like, just what's going on here?
And I don't even think this comes mostly from because here's the thing, right? I mean, we're getting some Superman talk for a second, but here's my thing on that. I think you'd be insane if you think Warner Brothers is willfully choosing not to use Superman. Superman is one of the most profitable individual IPs within the DC franchise for them.
Sure,
right?
Yeah.
I think they want to use Superman. I think the problem is there's been such a negative reaction to the Henry Cavill Superman by the general public. You know what I mean? He is, whether or not people think of him negatively or not, people didn't like his films. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the majority of people,
films that people did not like him in.
Though I will say, once again, a little bit of superhero talk for a second. I will say more people have come around on Man of Steel as time progresses.
For sure, but I think that's more like film people. I don't think general audiences even remember it. You know what I mean?
No, I don't know about
mostly
that.
Because I don't think general audiences have a reason to, because the DCEU has been just like a complete bust.
Fair enough.
For the general public. And so, I mean, otherwise they would have shown up. You know what I mean? I think Warner Brothers is saying, okay, we need to really clean house. Superman and Batman especially are our two most iconic, profitable IPs, and their current iterations don't work, so we just have to gain back audience trust. Even if we decided, we're gonna make Henry Cavill and we're gonna do Superman better this time, I think general audiences look at that, they see Henry Cavill on the post and say, I didn't like the last one he was in. What was that called? The Batman
well, especially
one?
After Justice League.
Yeah, but even I think even more so BVS. I think people just, because people didn't even see him in the marketing for Justice League, so I think
yeah, but they certainly saw that CGI'd lip.
Well, yeah, but I think you essentially what you end up with is people saying, I remember not liking the last one he was in. I'm just not going to go see that. And even if they don't remember what film it was. And I think what Warner Brothers wants to do is, okay, we'll just get a new Superman, a new Batman, clean house, so that general audiences see a poster with a new Batman and they go, oh, I want to go see that. Or a new Superman, and they go, oh, this seems like something different. And so it's all about gaining back that audience trust. And I think as much as they probably want to make a Superman movie, as much as they probably really like having Henry Cavill as Superman, as much as executives can enjoy the filmmaking process, I think it's just not possible at this point. There's too much damage done to the brand, which is great because that frees up Henry Cavill to do Bond, which I think is
all down for.
Back together in a bow. I think that's an excellent idea, an excellent career move for him, an excellent move for Eon, which we were just talking about this before the show, and you were saying you were a bit worried about his age.
Yeah, that was actually the next thing I wanted to get into was, by the time Bond 26 comes around, it'll be like, I don't know, 2023 or so, and he'll be 40. So it's like, will he have, will the ship have sailed at that point for him to jump on and be the next Bond?
For me, I'm going to say no, just because I was talking about this before. I think Daniel Craig was 38 when he did Casino Royale, 37, 38. I don't, and Henry Cavill objectively looks much younger than Daniel Craig ever has.
Oh, I mean that's fair. Yeah,
he just has like a Daniel Craig. If we're using some Bond terms, Daniel Craig is aged like Sean Connery, and Henry Cavill's sort of aging like Roger Moore in that he's.
I would say Henry Cavill's aging like Pierce Brosnan.
Pierce Brosnan looked really old in Die of the Day, though. I think
does he?
Like,
he still looks.
When I say Roger Moore, I don't mean like in that. Like everyone always thinks like, oh, he was super old, but he looked super old, but he was super old. He was like approaching 60.
Yeah, okay. That's
whereas
fair. Yeah.
he started playing Bond and like he was like 42, and he looked like he could have been younger than Sean Connery.
Yeah, that's
so.
Okay,
I think
that's fair.
In that case, that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it as like Henry Cavill is only really 10 years younger than Daniel Craig, give or take a couple of years, but he looks so much younger, like just infinitely younger, which is kind of interesting. So I don't think the age thing is a problem. I think once you get like into a rhythm of like 2 movies a year, he could pump them out. We were talking about this before as well. Daniel Craig kind of wasted, not his own fault, obviously, but he's been Bond for a long time, and he's really only made 5 films. When
it's just kind of crazy.
That number. And actually, when you think about it, like Bond 26 wouldn't be happening until like around 23, which is a good 5 years from now almost, which gives Henry Cavill plenty of time to do The Witcher, to do other little projects. Even if he was Superman in another movie, he could do that. Like, I don't know. I just think that the age thing isn't really a problem for him.
Sure.
Yet.
Yeah.
If you wait a little too long, then it starts to get like a bit silly.
I mean, he would have to, as Bond 25 is done, they'd basically have to be like, boom, you're the next Bond. Let's start working on this and just start pumping them out. They have to be very proactive with it.
Right. I think they can do 2 things at once. I think they would be silly not to be at least considering other Bonds while making this one.
Yeah, definitely considering, but their full attention is most likely on 25.
They're not going to pull a trigger on it either until afterwards. 100%.
Yes, yeah. But anyways, that is going to do it for our news segment. A lot of stuff in there, a lot of juicy topics to discuss. Let us know your thoughts and opinions on any of the topics we discussed in this segment in the comments section below of wherever you are listening to this episode. So, moving on, we are going into Q Branch. This is the segment where we talk about all the other stuff going on in the world of Bond, comics, books, video games, apparently Funko Pops too, which is collectibles, all sorts of stuff. But anyways, Brody, I'm going to pass it over to you. Take us through Q Branch. What do we have this week?
Right. So I think we're going to be a little quick on this one.
Sure. Yeah.
Since we were talking for a while there. There isn't too much to digest on this one. Just a couple little tidbits. The first tidbit is that there is a new James Bond book. Not a book in the way you're thinking, but there is a James Bond book. We've mentioned it before on the show.
Yep.
But there is a new James Bond, cocktail book. Mm-hmm. So if you ever want to drink like Bond, then this is the book for you. It's called Shaken, and it was launched maybe like 10 days ago, I think on the 10th of September.
Yeah.
And they launched this book, and as part of the launch, they set up a little bar in Soho, and it sounded really cool. Basically, this comes from the reporting at MI6 HQ.
Yeah,
and
they had a guy there or something.
Yeah, they had a guy there, and he sort of goes through, and I recommend reading it if you're interested. I'm not going to recount his experience there, but he has like a little fun little anecdote about him being there at the launch and that kind of thing. I'm
just happy to get a Bond accurate Vesper
book, right? Yeah.
or just a cocktail book in general with all the drinks in there. I mean, that sounds like fucking awesome. You start making them yourself, and it's like it just sounds like it's really kind of a cool little addition to any Bond fans coffee table. Well, that's the other thing is like I always love like the lifestyle stuff that kind of like corresponds with the Bond, like the clothing lines, the accessories, the colognes, all that good stuff. Heineken beer apparently, but
yeah, right.
But especially the cocktails, yeah,
right. And apparently in this book you've got cool little like sort of novelty creations. So you've got things like a drink called the Blofeld or the Moneypenny, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. There's also like launching alongside the book was a Ian Fleming brand British gin, which is a new premium gin from the makers of Blackwell Rum. So if you're interested in kind of drinking what Ian Fleming would have drank, if you like gin's kind of horrible, but
Oh, come on. I like gin.
I mean, gin's fine, I guess. Gin's fine with other stuff. Gin on its own is toxic. But like, oh god, I hate it. But yeah, no, it's like, again, not much to say, but if you want to check out the story, there's some fun little anecdotes in there about Ian Fleming and about the Fleming estate and just that kind of stuff. Like, really, really cool stuff. I'll definitely be picking the book up.
Same, yeah. Might be a nice Christmas present or something.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like, I think the franchise should be focusing on doing more of this kind of like sort of merchandising stuff. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Considering,
yeah, I've always thought that they never put enough attention on like the lifestyle stuff. Yeah, it's always like when the movies are coming out, that's when they double down on it. But really, this is stuff they should be doing, like, you know,
between films.
Between films during the year, get the, you know, notoriety up. I mean, people are already familiar with it, but like have these little events like the, you know, launch of a fucking drink or a cocktail book or something like that. You know, maybe open up like a Bond inspired bar in London or something like that. You see what they're doing with 007 Elements, with the art gallery. I feel like there is so much room for them to like really delve into like the Bond lifestyle.
A Bond tour around London.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, and so I love when stuff like this happens. It's great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so yeah, that book's out, and I would definitely recommend picking it up. Maybe if the sales do well, they may consider making more Bond merchandise. Not to strong arm you into buying merchandise, but
I mean, if you're a Bond fan, you probably have merchandise. So let's be honest here.
Exactly. So yeah, tying into this sort of like Bond promotional tie-in kind of stuff. It's kind of a fun little like DLC for the new Forza Horizon 4, which they're set to release a DLC pack called The Best of Bond, which essentially is going to include a bunch of Bond vehicles, if you can imagine it.
Right.
I watched the teaser trailer.
Really? DLC called The Best of Bond, and they're going to have Bond cars?
Which reminds me of, did you ever play 007 Racing?
I didn't.
Okay,
I remember
kind of
it, but I never played it. Yeah.
It was alright. It was pretty good. But I've always really liked the driving sections in all the Bond games, and I've always like wanted to be like a full version of that. This is about as close as we're going to get for a while.
Sure.
But yeah, no, so if you watch, there's a trailer online now, and it'll be coming out, I think, 2nd of October. And yeah, so basically, I think it includes the Aston Martin DB5 from Goldfinger, Thunderball, and then just makes cameos in every film since then. We've got the Aston Martin DBS from Her Majesty's Secret Service. You got the AMC Hornet hatchback from The Man with the Golden Gun. Which is the car that does the cool loop-de-loop.
I especially loved in the trailer when they did the little loop-de-loop thing. I was like, oh my god,
what a wonderful like homage.
Yes, only thing missing was the slide whistle.
I don't know if I was missing that, but I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast before. That was actually like John Barry's fault.
It absolutely was John Barry's fault, but still.
Because like recently I was listening to the soundtrack and it wasn't like a sound effect; it was like in the score. Which I was like, "What were you doing, John?" Like,
I don't know, man. That
it's
movie,
kind of famous. It's kind of famous, like known, like at this point that he was kind of phoning it in on The Man with the Golden Gun. He was super busy with another project, and so he just like had an obligation to do Man with the Golden Gun. So he's like, okay, I'll get Lulu to do the song, and it'll be trash, and I'll just quickly put together a score. It's actually got some pretty cool pieces in it, but you can definitely tell he was like rushing, and that's why eventually for Spy Who Loved Me, he just sort of said, okay, I need to take a break. And then they got Marvin Hamlish, and it became very 70s. But speaking of Marvin Hamlish and The Spy Who Loved Me, you can also drive the Lotus Esprit.
Oh, nice segue there.
Wow, right? That was a killer segue.
That was really good. One of your better ones, I will admit.
You can also you can also drive the little like bug car from For Your Eyes Only, the little yellow, not a Beetle, but you can drive that. You can drive the Aston Martin V8 from the Living Daylights, which is objectively the best Bond car.
Of course, I knew you were going to say that. That's the one you would be driving the whole time.
I would buy this game just for that. That car is beautiful. And on top of that, you can also drive the BMW Z8 from The World's Not Enough, the Aston Martin DBS from Quantum of Solace, and I also think it was in Casino Royale, but...
Yeah, I do think that was the same car.
Yeah, and then you can also drive the Aston Martin DB10 from Spectre and the Jaguar CX-75 also from Spectre, which was Hink's car. So, bunch of really cool cars you can drive in there. You can actually sort of, from what I'm reading, you can kind of use film-inspired gadgets from the cars. Like you can see in the trailer, like the Lotus glides across the water, like.
Yeah,
so,
you can have that like submarine vehicle type thing.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I think that'll be fun. It's not just like a cosmetic sort of addition to the game. You can actually use them the way they would have been used in the movies,
which is cool. Like I
cool.
like that.
Like, if you're gonna do a Bond tie-in with the vehicles, don't just make them look like them. Make them operate like them. You know.
Right.
So that sounds great. I don't have Forza. I don't have an Xbox.
Yeah, I don't have an Xbox either, so unfortunately I won't be getting this.
I know,
but if you are an Xbox One owner and you like racing games, this is definitely, something for you to maybe pick up.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you that's coming out on the 2nd of October, like I said before.
Sure.
Or if you pre-order Forza the Ultimate Edition, Forza 4, Horizon 4 Ultimate Edition, you can get it from September 28th. So
there you go.
Yeah,
perfect.
So check that out if you're interested in Bond cars or just want to dick around.
Yeah, exactly.
And now this last story is the most Griffin story to be ever.
Yes.
We've done other Funko stories before, but
this one
is like peak Griffin. He sent this to me as a picture on Instagram, and it was the most Griffin post I've ever received in my life. So if you haven't heard, if you don't follow Funko, as I don't, but Griffin does.
I'm an addict. I'm an absolute addict.
You've never seen him on film. You can see it in the background.
Yeah,
it's there.
I got my little James Bond Goldfinger Aston Martin.
Well, if that's not enough for you, now you can also get from the famous James Bond parody franchise, Austin Powers. You can now get a line of Austin Powers Funkos, which I'm just gonna let you describe, Griffin, because this is really your area.
Yeah, baby. Oh yes, I'm just so excited. No, I'm just really excited because I've wanted Austin Power ones for ever. Just because ever since the Bond ones came out, I was like, okay, they have to do Austin Powers because it's just too fucking perfect. They have two variants. There's one of him in blue. There's one of him in red. One's a GameStop exclusive, and then they have Dr. Evil with Mr. Bigglesworth. Felicity, and I think that's it for right now, right?
I think you're right. I think it was just before, yeah.
But anyways, they just look so good. Austin's got this groovy pose with the teeth,
little, the mole.
Yeah. I don't know. If you're a Funko collector like me, this is just fucking perfect.
And they are very expressive. I think I said this about the Roger Moore one.
I'm gonna say
it again about these ones. The eyebrows pretty much make the entire thing. You can just tell who it is based on the slightly raised eyebrow.
Right. And they did with the Sean Connery one in that iconic pose.
Yeah, exactly. So you got him in doing a yeah baby pose. But yeah, oh my god, it's just.
It's
really
a riot.
Not much to say on that.
It's a riot. Yeah, go pick them up. They're probably out eventually. Yeah, I'm very excited. Very, very excited. But anyways, that is about it for Q Branch. Let us know your thoughts and opinions on any of the topics we've discussed in the comment section below of wherever you are listening to this podcast. Now, Brody, I have a question. Do we want to breeze through Brother from Langley, or do we want to skip Brother from Langley and move straight on to Shaken But Heard? This is an on-the-spot decision.
Let's just breeze through it. I won't comment. You just sort of make because I haven't really seen any of the material required for this. So you just
that's fair.
Sort of give us the
I'll let you delve into the second bullet point, but the first bullet point I'll just kind of give my quick thoughts on. Yeah, so we're moving away from Bond into Tom Clancy. Just for a moment here, if you are not familiar with the show Brother from Langley's, where we discuss the other happenings in the world of spy films. So Jack Ryan, the Amazon show, premiered like several weeks ago.
As the Shadow Recruit.
The Shadow Recruit, yes, as they elegantly put it in the film with Chris Pine.
Jack Ryan,
Shadow Recruit. Wow,
Should've
thanks,
called it Jack
guys.
Ryan Origins.
Oh my god, it's about as bad as Jack Ryan. Like that, it might as well have been called Jack Ryan Origins.
Ryan Origins. There's like parts of that movie I don't hate though. Like I really like.
It's not bad, and I like Kenneth Branagh.
I love Kenneth Branagh in it.
I mean, Kenneth Branagh is literally the best part of anything you put him in. But anyways,
that's basically that one word review of Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit with like Kenneth Branagh being the best part is also my one word review of Murder on the Orient Express.
Exactly. Yep, I completely agree. But we're talking about Jack Ryan, the TV series, which truthfully, I think the character and the adventures he goes on lives a little bit better on a TV format. I just feel like it works. And I've watched through the entire series. This isn't going to be spoilery, but I'm just going to give you my thoughts on it. I actually quite enjoyed it. It's light. It kind of feels like 24 mixed with Homeland a little bit, because it's very, I mean, there's like some pretty like R-rated like Showtime stuff in there, but it plays out like it's, you know, made for network television. It's really weird, and theoretically that shouldn't work, but for me it does. It kept me entertained throughout. I think there's just one kind of weird and unnecessary side arc that with this like drone pilot that I'm like, why are we doing this again? Just to be socially relevant or politically relevant? I don't know, but I love John Krasinski as Jack Ryan. I think he does a really good job. It is really funny the first time we see him, he's like flexing his muscles, doing some like crew, which is just beyond perfect. But he's, you know, it's kind of like an intermediate between like him playing Jim and him playing the guy he played in 13 Hours. He's very much the, you know, heroic badass, but he's got a little bit of personality to him. He's got nice charisma. I will say I think the relationship aspect of it didn't quite work for me. It actually kind of frustrated me a little bit, but it worked out kind of towards the end. But the biggest takeaway is the guy who plays the main villain, he plays this extremist terrorist, is so good. And not only that, I think that the way in which his character is written is also very well done. He's incredibly fleshed out. There's like several episodes dedicated to just him and his, I guess you could say, origin. And in the first episode alone, there is this really powerful opening that, you know, kind of gives him his character a little bit of background. But anyways, I loved him. It was a bit light on action. I was surprised about that, and the climax of it didn't hit nearly as hard as I wanted. But I had a great time with it. I thought it was fun, and I can't wait to see season 2. I think this is a great, you know, TV, you know, spy action kind of series that I hope it gets another season. And by the look of it so far, I think it will. Yeah. So that's just my quick thoughts on Jack Ryan. I know it went on a little longer than I was anticipating.
I mean, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen it, but yeah, you've intrigued me. I will. Yeah. I mean, I
definitely recommend checking it out. And the episodes aren't too long, and there's only like 8 of them, so you know, it's not a huge time devotion. But that's not the only Tom Clancy news we have. I think you have a quick story that you wanted to touch on.
Yeah, pretty much just that. I mean, I don't have all the details out in front of me, but pretty much that. I guess this show is doing fairly well, and has revived interest in like the sort of the expanded Tom Clancy.
Yeah,
universe.
For sure.
And so Paramount has kind of gone ahead and cast Michael B. Jordan as John Clark for an upcoming planned film series based on Tom Clancy's character of the same name. John Clark, if you struggling to remember who he is because it's a pretty generic name.
Just like every John or Tom Clancy character.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think
they all begin with J's. Their first names all begin with J.
Yeah, and they're all like the most like classic American name you can think of.
Yeah,
Jack
for
Ryan,
sure.
John. They're both first names too, which I'm just noticing now. But yeah. So I think if you're trying to like scratch your mind, who is John Clark? If you've seen Clear and Present Danger, which is actually a really really good Jack Ryan film, he was the character Willem Dafoe played. And I think he was also played by Liev Schreiber in the one with Ben Affleck. I forget what it's called.
I always forget Ben Affleck was Jack Ryan.
I know, right? Yeah,
it's just mind blowing.
Some of All Fears, that's the one.
Yeah,
he was. Liev Schreiber played him in Some of All Fears as well. If you're familiar with that one for some reason. And so basically, and he's also in Rainbow Six, which is one of John Clancy's more famous books, and it became like a video game series on top of that. And so essentially what they want to do is they want to do a 2-film series with Michael B. Jordan so far. They want to start with Without Remorse and then follow it up with Rainbow Six, which is the most famous of the two. And what's interesting about this, and like, because you mentioned there was like light on action with the Jack Ryan show, which kind of makes sense because Jack Ryan was never really an action character in any of the books. They kind of had to force him into action scenarios for the movies just because...
Well, I mean, it makes sense. He's like an analyst and that gets thrown into this life of CIA agency.
Exactly, yeah. And so I think like Jack Ryan in the books ends up going to become president, like that kind of thing. So he's on a very different trajectory. But John Clark is kind of like the action guy of the two of characters. Yeah. And so you see that play out in a story like Clear and Present Danger, where you've got Jack Ryan doing his like sort of analyst stuff, and then you've got John Clark in the field doing field stuff. Yeah. And so making an action series based around him makes a lot of sense. Getting a really like charismatic young actor like Michael B. Jordan makes sense.
Yeah, I think he's a great choice. Yeah,
great choice. Yeah, and so I think this is a really really cool move on Paramount's part. Who I guess they're just trying to be spy film people now.
I wouldn't say there's a gap in the market, but with the Mission Impossible films, they've definitely already proven themselves in the genre.
Exactly. Yeah,
and there's always room for more. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and so like I think, and like this is what very 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 like sort of tangential and very kind of not exactly the most credible, but
sure.
Apparently originally they've been working on this Without Remorse sort of adaptation for a while, and it's been in development hell and it's been kind of all over the place. But apparently at some point there was a treatment or something that had Christopher McQuarrie's name attached to it, along with Tom Clancy's. Yeah. Which makes sense if it's with Paramount, and also kind of raises my interest. I mean, I know this is not very confirmed at all, and he may not be attached to it anymore, but his name being involved in it does pique my interest, even if it is like a rumor.
Yeah, especially given his track record with Mission Impossible and stuff.
Just within the genre,
the genre,
so I think, again, like that's just a little what if. Probably won't pan out because it's probably his version of the story is probably long gone by now.
Well, and I'm sure he's like, just so in the Mission Impossible mindset, him and Cruise are probably going to be working on 7 at some point. So,
right, yeah, and so, but if this is a script that had already existed that he worked on, I'd be very interested to see it just because of his name alone.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at with Tom Clancy news. Yep. Keep an eye out for that. See what happens with those. And I think the fact that they've cast someone now gives me hope that they're probably going somewhere with this.
Right. So, yep. And when we hear of any developments, we'll throw it in there in Brother from Langley. But
of course,
that is going to do it for Brother from Langley. Are you excited about the Rainbow Six movie series? Have you seen Jack Ryan? We want to hear about it in the comments section below of wherever you are listening. All right, moving on to our final segment of the show, our discussion segment. We've covered a lot of ground here, so we'll try and run through this as quick as we can, but we want to give you some good material here. So, shaken but heard. Usually we play off of a topic that we've already discussed here and, go into more just discussion based kind of conversation. And so we thought it would be fun now that Cary Fukunaga is announced and confirmed as the director of Bond 25. We decided to do a Bond 25 fantasy casting. Now, it's a little difficult to do a Bond 25 fantasy casting because it's like, okay, what are the criteria? Are we just going to go based off of people he's worked with before? Are we going to go just free reign? I think we're going to do a little bit of a mixture of both, right? Like just kind of in a more realistic sense, who he could get. So, but we're definitely going to take into account Cary Fukunaga as the director and people he's worked with in the past. And so where do you want to start, Brody, with this fantasy casting? Because we're going to do it jointly. We're not going to have our own separate list. We're going to do it jointly. We're going to give you our fantasy casting.
So I guess, is there anyone that he's worked with before that you feel you would love to see him? Because I've got someone in mind. Sure. That, if you want me to lead.
Well, no, I mean, we were talking about this beforehand, but having worked with Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey, seeing them in a villainous role would be so interesting. I mean, say what you will about Matthew McConaughey. Yeah, he wasn't the greatest in The Dark Tower as the villain, but I still think there's potential in there for him to play a bad guy. So Matthew McConaughey as a villain in a Bond film could be really interesting given the right material, but Woody Harrelson just makes so much sense as
Woody
well.
Harrelson would be great, yeah.
Yeah, but both of them are like actors you wouldn't think of when you think of a Bond villain, but my God, you've had so many you've had so many different actors play Bond villains that sure, why the hell not go for it?
Exactly, yeah. No, I was saying this before we started, but I've got this weird thing with Matthew McConaughey where I've always envisioned Felix in the novels looking like Matthew
that's
McConaughey.
Right. Yeah.
Which is just because the sandy blonde hair and the kind of the certain features he has. I can't unsee that. I 100% guarantee you he's not going to be Felix, but that is just something funny that I've always sort of thought about him. But yeah, no, I'm totally on board with them being even if not even as just as ally characters, just having them just something somewhere.
Yeah, someone in the film.
I could see Woody Harrelson playing Felix's supervisor or something. You know what I mean?
He takes over for David Harbour.
Yeah, exactly.
That still blows my mind that he's in Quantum of Solace.
It's hilarious. He has the best laugh in show business in that movie.
Oh, legitimately. And that mustache. The mustache
paired with the schoolgirl glee that he seems to laugh with. Yeah, so one of my picks is actually not even a casting pick, but I think what I would love to see, cause now that we have Fukunaga on board, is I want to see Adam Akapour do the cinematography, because he was a cinematographer on True Detective, and he's done a bunch of other really, really great stuff. He's an Australian cinematographer, and he did Macbeth, he did Assassin's Creed,
dude,
Macbeth True Detective.
He's gorgeous looking.
He's got a beautiful his eye is so breathtaking.
Seriously,
and he seems to work really well with Fukunaga. Did I say that right?
Fukunaga? No, it's just Fukunaga.
Yeah,
this is going to be the running gag of the show. Yeah.
I know. I knew that was wrong. I spent all this time learning how to say Villeneuve, and now it's ultimate. But I will get better at it, I swear. But I'd love to see him. Yeah. I would love to see him be the cinematographer. He feels like the obvious pick.
I'm 100%
considering
down
his
for
relationship.
That. Yeah.
But... yeah, it would just be beautiful. It'd be beautiful.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Well, and given the fact that every single film that guy has shot is gorgeous, I would just love it.
He even did I don't know if you've seen Animal Kingdom.
I've seen enough footage from Animal Kingdom to know how good it looks, but I haven't actually seen the show.
Well, yeah, he did the film version, and it's just he's. Again, breathtaking. Sure. Really is. And it'd be cool if there was an Australian cinematographer, I won't lie.
There you go. There's your little plug there. I'm going to throw another name out there, Idris Elba. I think maybe this could be the opportunity to get Idris Elba into the franchise. Maybe not as Bond, but and it's so weird because all my picks have to deal with villains or whatnot, but like Idris Elba as a villain, maybe he's another MI6 operative. That could be a fun little nod to like the heavy fan speculation that's been going on for years. But
absolutely, I think in the same vein, I would throw in like why am I blanking? Michael Fassbender.
Yep, he's worked with him on Jane Eyre.
And I think throwing him in as well as like another could have been Bond, but probably isn't the right age anymore.
Sure.
Then you could throw them in as like a supporting character, and that be like a fun little like dynamic.
Yeah. Hell, I mean, either of those guys, really, all four of the people that I have mentioned, including your mention of Fassbender, would be excellent villains. It's kind of just kind of crazy how that's worked, but I could also see them as supporting characters. Probably with Matthew McConaughey being like the weakest choice for a villain.
Probably, It'd be very, very like particular kind of villain. It'd be he'd do a great monologue. It just would never end.
It just would keep going.
I thought this was kind of funny. We were sort of like literally going through everyone he worked with on True Detective, and I thought it was funny that he worked with Michelle Monaghan on True Detective. And
Michelle Monaghan could be good.
He could be stealing Ethan Hunt's girl.
That would be hilarious.
Kind of funny.
Yeah, Michelle Monaghan would be good. I'm always a big fan of Alexandra Daddario. I just don't think that she. I don't know. I can't see her, I guess, being in a Bond film. Like, it'd be really weird for me. But like,
I agree,
I mean, she's got the chops.
I think the same thing about Michelle Monaghan. I was just joking about her, really.
Oh, I know, but
not that she would be bad.
Fantasy
obviously.
casting, yeah, it's just right. It could be interesting with either of those two. With him having worked with them in the past. I was trying to think of someone else he worked with on. Shit, I'm blanking on a name. What else you got? What other fantasy? Oh, not necessarily someone that Cary Fukunaga has worked with before, but you mentioned who would absolutely be perfect, and for Craig's swan song, hello, this needs to happen, Rachel Weisz.
Yes, exactly, and that's been one of the things that I've been sort of hanging on for. It'd be bring him on, and
why hasn't it happened yet? Is just really my question.
Right? Like, I mean,
she's
maybe,
so perfect.
Maybe they tried and they just. Actually, that's not even true because I watched. What was that film they did together? The house one, the haunted house one.
Oh, Dreamhouse?
Dreamhouse, yeah. I watched that with Brian, actually. And the movie was kind of like... It was actually kind of good until the end, but their chemistry was excellent. They have like... I mean, because sometimes you have like couples who aren't really good on camera together, but they're like legitimately very good together on camera. Yeah, it just blows my mind that you have this actress of this caliber that close to the main actor, and you haven't thought to cast her as like.
Yeah, it's really mind blowing. Even if Craig wasn't Bond, she would be such a perfect Bond girl, and she's age appropriate for him too. You know,
exactly, which would be really nice considering they like trying to like sort of do things right by women.
Yeah,
considering kind of the shady past they've had.
Yeah,
I think that would be really, really smart as well, doing someone who's age appropriate for Daniel Craig.
Sure. What if they're looking at a female villain? Who would you who would be a name that comes to mind for you?
Man, it's always like the cliched list. Like, I think someone like Charlize Theron would be great. Obviously,
she's always excellent as villain.
She's always excellent, and she's proven that she can be a very good like sort of mincing villain.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm trying to think now. This is like on top of my head, like female villain. I mean, I know I wouldn't pick Angelina Jolie.
She's the very cliched pick, but I also
and she's also just too Hollywood for me. She's just
way
like
too
the face of like Hollywood.
Yeah, I remember Helena Bonham Carter's name was floated around too.
Oh yeah, she would be good actually. I wouldn't
be interesting. I feel like
she's a good character actress. Like
exactly, yeah.
She would be really fun actually.
I just wonder if maybe. Knowing her from like Tim Burton films, if that would like take me out of it a little bit, you know.
I mean, I guess, but if she's not doing her hair up crazy, she doesn't look like Bellatrix. Maybe that might
that's
be
fair.
Easier to like sort of believe her. I think she's very talented, and I think
she is. Yeah.
I think like in terms of if you want to get a character actor, she's very good.
Sure,
and like she's very good at like sort of becoming the role, and I think that's actually a pretty interesting pick that I hadn't considered before. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I just think like. Also, I think we didn't talk about this in the news, but there was like a little bit of a rumor going around that they were thinking about bringing Madeline back, possibly. Like,
Léa Seydoux. I remember she was hinting at it. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think that would be kind of cool.
I'm okay either way. I'm not like screaming to have her back, but like if
course,
she is
yeah.
back, that's
It'd
great.
be nice to resolve that arc, and also maybe give her some more to do. Like, because she is a very good actress. Like,
Oh, she's
that's the
great.
thing.
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
brilliant, and I think she didn't really get a chance to really shine in Spectre. And so I think if you get her back on there, maybe she can do more scenes with Daniel Craig. They can develop their chemistry a bit more. That might be really cool, and then also resolve an arc that was left open from the previous film.
Sure.
In the same vein, I would love it if they brought Blofeld back. Like, maybe not as the lead villain, but like if you had like maybe Bond has to liaise with him in prison or something.
That would be interesting. Yeah,
like,
that would be.
Like they've got like a connection to Spectre that they need him to sort of resolve for them, so Bond has to go visit him in prison or something.
Plus, we would get to see Christoph Waltz back.
Right, yeah,
Which
it'd
is
be
always
like a
delightful.
bit part, and he gets
Yeah.
to be like more like sort of Hannibal Lecter-esque about it. Sitting in the prison cell. Maybe not do the glass prison. That's kind of a cliche at this point.
That is a little cliche, but whatever.
Yeah, but just like sort of do him having like a one-on-one with him. You could have a really good scene, a really good monologue, and then he doesn't have to be in the rest of the story necessarily. But that would be kind of cool, I think. I'm a big fan of bringing people back, if you haven't noticed.
Yeah, no, I am. Actually, that was going to be my next to kind of close off this little thing. Who out of all the names mentioned, who do you want as your villain? Who do you want as your Bond girl, whether romantically involved or not? Obviously, we have our cinematographer, because I think you hit the nail on the head with him. He's fucking brilliant. And you can include Blofeld as a side character. Yes. I'll allow it if that's a decision you want to have made.
I think I'm going to go with Blofeld as a side character. I think I want... Again, this is like... And I was talking about this with you before.
Yeah.
I have been like sort of like formulating my own Bond 25, like sort of what I want to see.
That'll be in an episode.
That'll be an upcoming episode,
Yeah.
yes. So this may conform with that a little bit.
Oh yeah.
But,
also, we can throw in henchmen too if you want.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see Jeffrey Wright back as Felix.
Sure.
You got an American director. You got to bring Felix back. Like, do it for your homeland.
Do it for your homeland.
And then I would love to see as like a sort of a shadow Bond like kind of character, like a kind of like a Red Grant type villain. Maybe not even the lead villain, but like I would love to see Michael Fassbender. Just thinking about that makes me
I just
like,
want him
giddy.
so badly in this franchise.
And, he can't be Bond anymore. He's too old. But I would love to see him as playing like almost like a Bond's shadowy reflection.
Yeah.
And that was like you get a vibe for what he'd be like as Bond, but at the same time he's playing a villain and it's different, and that would be amazing.
Sure.
Bond girl wise, I'm always a big fan of them going for someone I don't know. But if I have to pick someone, I've said it before. I'm gonna go with Rachel Weisz. Like,
yep.
If we're constructing this, like this is like the most like cliched fan. This is the most like cliche for me fan casting.
I mean, but you're not wrong though on a lot of this.
I mean, she'd be great, and I think it'd be weird to have her be a Bond girl with a different Bond. Like, you know what I mean?
It'd be very weird. It would be very. It would be pretty funny too.
Like, she finally becomes a Bond girl, and it's with Sam Mendes. Sam Mendes is the new Bond. He cast himself so that he could finally get with Rachel Weisz. Like, he's finally got a.
Oh my god!
Poor Sam Mendes.
That's funny. That's too funny.
But yeah, no, I think that'd be really cool.
Sure. Who do you got as your main villain then?
Main villain, I think. Oh man, I don't know. It would be come back for me on that one. You go through yours. I'm gonna
really.
Come back
You're gonna pull that game on me.
Oh
okay.
yeah, you know it.
Well, I'm gonna opt out of Blofeld in mine. I feel like just Spectre has tainted him for the time being. Bring him back in the next one. I don't want Lea Seydoux to come back.
Closure of like bringing the thing. You don't want Lea Seydoux coming back.
No, man. I really just want this to be like a wholly like very much like Skyfall and Casino Royale. We're just very just like self-contained staples.
I think part of me, I feel that. I think part of me wants like is desperate for like, okay, this is the last one, Daniel Craig. Let's just really tie everything together in a much more cohesive way than Spectre did. Like, let's really make everything have a purpose. I don't know.
Yeah,
almost
that's
like a culmination, like a crescendo.
Yeah, that's fair.
Nice.
Yeah,
but,
no. So I'm not going to bring back the two people from Spectre. We're just going to let that one be the black sheep of the the group. And then so what do we have? We have villain, Bond girl, and maybe a henchman. I feel like you have to have a henchman, but I don't want like the Dave Bautista like henchman. I like what you said, like a shadow of Bond, like very much like a Red Grant. I'm always a huge sucker for the Red Grant type character, and I think
love that, yeah.
Either Michael Fassbender or Idris Elba could do that role justice, and it would be a nice little tip of the hat to the fan outcry to have them as Bond. So because you said Michael Fassbender, I'll go with Idris Elba for the Red Grant character.
Nice.
Bond girl, I'm in the same boat as you, Rachel Weisz, just because she's not only an incredible actress, but why they have not been together on screen yet, and there are a couple in real life, just boggles my mind, especially because she just has the factor to be such like a great and memorable Bond girl, for lack of a better words. I mean, I feel like she'd be more than that, but especially with Craig's involvement, like, my God, I feel like if she's not the Bond girl in this film, I just like,
he's letting his wife down.
Maybe she doesn't want to do it. Maybe that's really what it is. But yeah, okay, and then for the main villain, I'm either going to go Michael Fassbender, or I might take a risk and go Matthew McConaughey.
Wow.
Just because I feel like Woody Harrelson is the safe choice there, and or Michael Fassbender is the safe choice. But Matt, this is something about just like, I don't know. I don't think Matthew McConaughey could do Russian very well, so this is very like, obviously we're keeping Jeffrey Wright as Felix. I don't know, man. Maybe that one will change. What's your pick for the villain?
Oh man, so the villain, I'm like kind of like, it would depend on the kind
of villain. You know what?
No,
I take that back. I'm going full in. We're not scrap that. Matthew McConaughey is not going to be the villain. McConaughey can have a nice supporting role in MI6 or something like that. We are going with Liev Schreiber for the main villain.
That's a good pick.
Yeah,
I like that a lot, actually.
He's very intimidating, and I think he can pull off being Russian. So
okay, yeah. So like with mine, I was thinking like either a Russian. The guy's either a Russian, or he's like kind of a political agitator in league with the Russians, right?
Sure.
But I think this actor could play both. What I was thinking of, and I think like just in terms of like kind of playing like what we had going before with that description of it being like cool, like charismatic, icy, vindictive, that kind of thing. You know who I'd like to see as a Bond villain?
Who?
I'd like to see Cillian Murphy.
Oh, what a great choice!
I think he's got the eyes. He would just it'd be a battle between the piercing blue eyes.
Yeah,
him and Danny
what a
Craig
great choice.
down.
Damn, that's almost making me regret my Liev Schreiber choice. I was going more stereotypical. You went like based off the casting description. I feel like you win. Like that is a great choice. I love it. Fuck it. Cillian Murphy's the Bond villain.
Right, it'd be great. I think it'd be a lot of fun. He's got so much range. I think he's been so underserved by Hollywood. He should.
Christopher
be
Nolan is
by
the
now.
only man that is giving this guy roles,
right.
aside
and this
from
guy
like
should be a
Peaky
leading
Blinders.
man. He's so good.
He's so damn good. But anyways, that's our Bond fantasy casting. We gave you 2 instead of 1. Actually, no, real quick, we'll round this out. Let's do 1, just based off of all the pieces there. I'm gonna fight for the ones that I want. Okay, so let's. So we have both of our fantasy castings. Obviously, Craig's Bond. We agree on Rachel Weisz as the Bond girl. I think that's a no-brainer. Henchman, you say Fassbender, I say Elba. Who do we go with?
I'm happy with either, honestly. It would depend on the kind of role that he would be playing. If he's like a straight-up henchman,
I'll make it simple for you, because you get the villain with Cillian Murphy. Idris Elba's the henchman, or the Red Grant kind of character. Because I don't want to use henchman. This too.
That'd be right. The heavy. He's the heavy in the film. Yeah. Yeah,
and then maybe Matthew McConaughey and Michael Fassbender can be MI6.
Yeah, we're just
goons
like
or something.
A-list actors through like minor roles.
Yeah, A-list.
In there. Actually, I want to add Woody Harrelson as being. I want him to be Felix's supervisor. I want.
Yeah,
that
I'm down for that. Yeah,
like he's the head. He's like the director of the FBI, and he's like, "What the hell's going on, Felix?"
And just to kind of cap this all off, Helena Bonham Carter is Cillian Murphy's love interest.
Oh, there you go. Wow, that's like I could see it.
That's a weird couple, but it totally works.
I'm getting like Electra and Renard vibes from that like kinky relationship,
right? Well, there you go. There's our Bond 25 fantasy casting. Oh man, what a wild one! I don't even know what kind of film would come of that, but it sounds interesting. So the most important thing is we want to hear from you. What is your Bond 25 fantasy casting? Down in the comments section below. You can be as outlandish or realistic as you like. The only thing that has to remain constant is Daniel Craig as Bond. So with that is going to do it for this episode of The Words Are Not Enough. I think this is episode 17. Yes?
Wow. Look at us go.
I know. We should have way more episodes out than we do, but unfortunately, we only go with what's popping up in the world of Bond news, which doesn't have it comes in waves, like we say every time. It comes in waves. But
now
thank
we
you,
got a director. Hopefully,
yeah, exactly.
What are we going to call our Bond film? Actually, what's our Bond film called?
Our Bond film is called
Under the Tree.
Under the fucking pine tree. Now we're gonna bring it back full circle. Tim Allen is actually James Bond. And with that, thank you guys for listening. I know this has been a long episode, but hopefully it was jam-packed full of content for you. As always, Brody, where can everyone find you?
People can find me at Brody Saravalli on Twitter. Just come listen to me rant. Yell into the void with me.
Yes, just do it. Just tweet at him all your angry Bond rants. Tell him how he's wrong. Tell him how he's wrong to cast Cillian Murphy as the villain in his film.
Well, that's objectively an incorrect opinion, so I will fight you on that.
I'll back you up on that one. But as always, guys, be sure to like this video, or if you're listening to this on the podcast feed, be sure to give us a rating and a review. Seriously helps the show out, helps us get noticed, and helps us get feedback from you guys, because we want to hear from you all. We like your involvement. Be sure to subscribe to the Men vs. Movies channel for the latest in film and television, and also we have more of these episodes on there, and you can catch our live streams when we talked about the Danny Boyle departure from the Bond film 25. That's untitled. I don't know what I'm saying, but you can catch those live streams on the Men vs. Movies channel as well. You can also like Men vs. Movies on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter simply by searching, guess what? Men vs. Movies. And lastly, guys, if you like me specifically and you like what I have to say, you can give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of The Words Are Not Enough. And until next time, guys, take care.